Hey, good evening, social media. How you doing? This is your boy, Dr. Glenn. We apologize in advance for our technical difficulties. Sometimes with these wonderful things come challenges, but the key to it is being able to work around the challenge and then getting to the substance of whatever it is that you're going to talk about. Um, as you know, for this month, I've been doing a campaign called Missions 365, and I've had various guests on from South Africa. I had individuals from both coasts. I had a powerful session last week with friends and family about doing missions in local context. And tonight it's going to be no different. This young man that I have on, we go back, man, since 2002 time frame, I believe. I can say go back off that one. That there has been a minute, and we've always talked about being able to do ministry together in whatever context or platform that's been available to us. But this particular year, we've done ministry multiple times via social media. You know, we're thankful for every opportunity we get to share with each other, but we're also thankful for the opportunity that God has allowed us to come together to connect and to be able to share in intimate discussions. So
Mm.
tonight's discussion is going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to having my friend and my brother Daniel G on tonight. Welcome, Daniel, to my show on Mission 365. I felt like it was very important to have you on and to have this discussion because your voice is critical in this hour, and there are some things that you will share tonight that's going to impact and touch the lives and hearts of those that shall listen. So, hey, you guys that are listening, I ask that you would like the show, that you would send the hearts, the likes, the comments, the share, start watch parties because tonight's topic you want to hear. But before we move forward, I want to introduce my friend, my brother, Daniel. Daniel, please tell the people something about yourself.
Man, first off, as I call you Prophet, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's truly an honor. I adore you and your wife, and it's truly a pleasure to be with you tonight. A little bit about me. I am in the Midwest, where right now it's about 101 degrees. Just a week ago, it was 56 outside. So I'm missing the 56-degree weather. We're embarking into fall here soon. So I love the Midwest. Absolutely adore the Midwest. So that's a little bit about me, where I'm at right now.
All right, all right, all right. Okay, so as you guys know, tonight's discussion is about Missions 365. And if you've been following me, you know that I've been saying that missions is done in various contexts. We know the scripture talks about going into Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the uttermost parts of the earth. But along with that, there are various people groups that we have to also impact. Anyone that knows their Bible knows that the Samaritans weren't necessarily well accepted within the Jewish community for various reasons. But tonight we're going to into a topic of being able to how do we bring forth a positive presentation of the gospel to the LBGT community, if I said it correctly, and how
LGBT.
to be able to uh, not be critical in things that we share. Now, my goal for this discussion, I'm reading a note, is to present the gospel in another way to different people groups. As such, I want people to hear Daniel's heart. I want people to hear his love for Jesus and his love for humanity.
Mm.
I believe that a part of the issues that we face is a genuine lack of understanding in some cases, and then on both sides. But more importantly, a blatant lack of respect on both sides. With that being said, we're going to jump right into this. Daniel, what does ministry? I'm sorry. What does missions look like to you? What does it mean to you?
Missions to me isn't necessarily going cross country to touch the lives of uh, the poor. It really is demonstrating love to those in your backyard, to those that live beside you, the people that you're presented with every single day. I have such a big heart for missions. I love. I've been on several mission trips myself. I mean, I love missions. I support missions work. But I've learned that if I can't live out the presentation of Christ with the people that are around me, what good am I if I go to a third world country and present the gospel there? So missions is, to me, is demonstrating Christ everywhere you go, especially those that you're around on a more normal day-to-day basis.
Oh man, that's it's powerful. The fact that you mentioned that, missions to you is being able to present the gospel in whatever context that you're in. And if you can't love at home, how can you love abroad?
Right.
And that's, I think, it's one of the biggest challenges that I've seen when we speak about missions. It's always seems to be overseas, but we
Mhm.
but we don't hit the aspects of missions right in our backyards. And the
Right.
imperative, it starts at home.
Right.
And a lot of times we miss it at home because we're looking to go somewhere else. Now, with
Right.
that being said, and you kind of alluded to this already, where have you been as far as mission trips are associated?
Uh, it's been a while ago. My very first mission trip was back in high school. I spent a month in Lima, Peru, with the Choir of the Fire Ministries, Ron Luce. Um, and dude, it it rocked my world. Um, I I I loved every moment of that month. It taught me so much just about the luxuries that we in America have compared to those that are in a third world country. And then, of course, I've spent different weeks in Las Vegas. I spent a week in um, for Mardi Gras in Louisiana. Um, and I've done like some church mission trips like that. The main mission trip that I took the longest was, well, and I also went to Mexico and did a mission trip for a week in Mexico. So, again, those were a long time ago, man. I mean, those were high school, college years. I mean, over 15 years ago. But I've never
Man,
forgotten them. Like I've never forgotten those ministry trips.
outstanding. Now, let me ask you a question. You said it's been a long time ago. What about when last time you went to the grocery store?
Well, I just came from there.
So my point is, wherever we go, we're on missions,
Right,
and which goes back to your point earlier. Missions kind of starts right in your backyard,
right, right,
and a lot of times we miss those mission slash ministry moments because we don't see it as such. And when
right.
it comes
Yeah,
to missions, we have to be ever so cognizant of whoever God brings across our path, so that we can impact their lives right where they are. And
right.
that must be your dog, not mine. Love them, love them. I have two, and right now they're being very nice. So, but let's get into it, bro.
Yep, sure.
Now my dog's barking because your dog's barking. It's all good. It's why we're here. All right, sir. So, as an advocate of the LGBT community, what is their perception of church, Christianity, and etc.?
It's such a great question, Glenn. And I just want to preface this before I kind of dive in. I'm very passionate about the local church. I'm very passionate about supporting the local church. I'm very involved in my local church. I am speaking tonight on behalf of those in the LGBTQ plus community, and I'm going to speak very honestly, and I don't want any of our viewers to think that I'm disregarding the church with how honest I'm going to be, because I value the church. That said, the LGBT community um, doesn't, I don't want to say hate because hate is a strong word,
Mm-hmm.
but hate is probably one of the more appropriate words that the LGBTQ plus community has towards the American church. The American church has done a very poor job demonstrating kindness, love, and acceptance to a community of people who have been orphaned for so many years. They've been orphaned by their own families, they've been orphaned by their friends, And the church is supposed to be the safest place for people to belong. And unfortunately, the church has raped the community of their gifts and their talents. But when it comes to loving and accepting people, they have done a very poor job. When you start talking about being who you are and accepting yourself for who you are, the church then they create, again, I'm going to be very honest here, they create bastard children. These individuals end up being isolates, left to themselves to try to survive and live their own life in spirituality. And unfortunately, the community hates the church. It's just the truth. And it's sad for me to say that, but it's the experience that I have in my own LGBTQ plus community.
Now, with that being said, how do you deal with the community being kind of a foot in both?
That's a great question. I, as a LGBTQ plus identified individual and a spiritual leader and influencer in my community, I will tell you that I've had to establish a trust within the LGBTQ plus community. The community isn't going to just believe and trust that you say that you're an advocate for them and for their relationships and their life. You have to establish a healthy trust to where they know that you aren't just an advocate, like you're going to fight for them, you're going to stand up for them, you're going to speak up for them. I've had to establish a trust. And I'll tell you, Glenn, this has been years of processing and learning. As you know, I came from the local church. I went through 10 years of ex-gay therapy, shock treatments, Pentecostal deliverances, exorcisms. I tried to get rid of it all. And I finally came to terms with this doesn't go away. So how do I develop understanding with my faith and with my sexuality and live it out? So it's been a learning journey for me. And in that learning, I have developed a trust within the community where they now listen to me, and I have a following. I have friends now that know that I'm for them 100%.
Wow. You said a few things there that really echo with me, really resonate. Anyone that knows me know about building relationships. Because when you build relationships the right way, then they tend to go in a positive direction. And if there is something that someone doesn't agree with, but because you're in a relationship, then there are certain things that you can sometimes agree to disagree. And then there are times when we just disagree, let's just move on. And then there are times when we agree.
Right.
And that's not just in a relationship with people that are not like me, but it's also a relationship with people that are like me. When I say that, I mean, as far as straight, I don't agree with every straight person.
Right.
In fact, I don't agree with everybody all the time, period. But the thing is being able to move forward from that and still understand that I'm not coming at you sideways because I don't agree with you.
Right.
And that's sometimes I think is one of the things that I see from my perspective. A lot of times with me, I try to, I'm not a pacifist by any measure of the word. My wife, she calls me more of a diplomat. I'd rather find an amicable way to deal with issues, but if need be, I can go on the offensive. But yet, when it comes to building relationships, there's such a level of trust that has to be garnered.
100%.
And part of the thing that I see is once that trust is broken, it's like that saying hell has no fear, like that of a woman being scorned. That's what happens. And then on both sides, we say, well, they're all the same.
Yeah.
In fact, the matter is everyone is not the same. We're all trying to, as you say, it's a learning journey, and we're walking through this process together.
Yeah.
And it's like when we were dialoguing the other night, I said, love is not necessarily the answer alone. Part of this answer is also, it goes back to being open-hearted, but it's a matter of passing forth relevant information, which is why I wanted you to come on tonight, because it's like you said, sir, some things don't go away.
Right.
Now, you mentioned some things. You said SK therapy or something to that effect.
Ex, it's ex-gay
XK.
reparative therapy.
Oh, gay repair. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, for those that are listening and don't know what that is, can you give us a quick snippet of what that is?
Yeah, I mean, ex-gay reparative therapy is a program to where they basically teach you how to become a straight man. You go through programs, they teach you how to eat like a man, talk like a man, do work like a man. Basically, their theory is you got to learn how to pray harder, study the word harder, trust in God more, do more works in order to attain this freedom. And it's a crock of BS if you ask me. I mean, I spent a decade of my life going through it, and I mean, I am who I am today, but I spent 9 months after that journey, walking away from faith and God altogether. I mean, I was angry, very angry, angry at the system, angry at the church. Let me say this, Glenn. The church is an incredible organization, and I think that the people, I think the church is a hope that people will be able to go to. I strongly believe that. I will never negate the power of the local church. That said, I think that the church has a problem of of living out their convictions, and their convictions dictate how they connect with people.
Mhm.
And I don't want my conviction to dictate how I connect with people. I'm not going to let it dictate how I connect with people. My conviction is my conviction, but I'm not going to allow it to eliminate me from connecting to a humanity, to a people in the world that are in desperate need of love and hope and Christ. And I think that that's the challenge that the church has had for so many years. And there are many churches that are making changes and are progressing and becoming more open to this conversation, but unfortunately there are still many that have closed doors to having this conversation. And I appreciate you really having this conversation tonight. It means a lot to me.
Well, you're quite welcome, bro. Like I said, we've been at this since 2002,
Yeah.
all the way back to O'Fallon, Illinois.
Yeah.
So unlike some of the viewers, I've had the opportunity to see different progressions of who you are now versus who you were then, but I
Yeah.
also seen glimmers of the journey in between. And I found that it's very important that I allow you to be you.
Yeah.
We've had conversations along the way when you were struggling. We had conversations when you were, into women, and then we had conversation when you hated the church. So we've had multiple conversations over the span of almost 20 years,
Yeah.
18 years to be exact.
Yeah.
And when it comes to that, I'm very cognizant of that. And I'm also very cognizant of who we are as individuals.
Yeah.
And there are things I do you don't agree with, and vice versa. But the relationship is not hanging by a thread. This is a solid relationship where we
Yeah.
can talk to one another and in confidence, but more so we can talk to one another and still when we're done talking, the conversation was like, man, you know what? Thank you. I really appreciate that. And
Yeah.
that's what it's really about. But I want to digress one moment. You mentioned doesn't go away. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because what I've noticed within the church system, I'm not saying the kingdom of God, but the church system, it is you can be a womanizer, it's okay. You can be addicted to porn, that's okay. You can be addicted to alcohol, that's okay. But when it comes to dealing with the same sex attraction, it's like one of the biggest things in the world. And what I would tell anyone is, and I've always said this from day one, and that is an addiction is an addiction is an addiction is an addiction. These same individuals who say, you know what, Daniel, you shouldn't do this, are the same ones with their addiction in the areas in which they're in.
Yeah.
And they're struggling, and the thing is, they look at you and then they think automatically, well, he's of this persuasion. Well, he is living his best life now. That's
Right.
the thing that people fail to realize.
Right.
Whereas the thing about 2020 is this: it has forced people to come to a grip with who they are,
Yeah.
and but more importantly, it has forced oh, not even for, but it has enabled us to have these conversations that are candid, they are
Sure.
unfiltered, and it's not about being inside the four walls of the church. In my opinion, it's never been about being in the four walls of the church. It's about being out amongst the people. I shared
Right.
with someone today, when Christ was here, he didn't go to where the church folk were. In fact, all of his opposition came from the church. He went to
Right.
those like you, like me, those who have addictions and those who have issues, and said, you know what, what did he say? He said, go sin no more. Now, here's the thing. When we start talking about these issues, it varies. It varies from the perspective of how we receive it and or how we perceive it. Man, I'm loving this conversation. All right. All right. In your opinion, in Daniel G's opinion, do you think it's difficult? Why do you think it's difficult for many Christians to want to share Jesus or even interact with the LGBT community?
Another great question. I think you hit on something whenever you talked about perceiving, you know, uh, individuality. One, I don't think that homosexuality is a sin. I don't think that someone being gay is a sin. I think that the church, if I were to live out my sexuality and use terminology, as I call semantics, and say to the church, um, you know what, I struggle with same sex attraction. The church will allow me to participate and be a part of their culture. But if I tell them that I'm gay, which again, by saying I have same sex attraction, I'm saying the same thing, but I'm using churchy language,
Hmm.
it's not accepted. If I tell the church that I'm gay, here's what the church hears, unfortunately. This is how they perceive it. This is what they hear. They hear me saying, I'm out having sex, I'm out drinking, I'm clubbing, I'm having orgies every week. I'm living this crazy drug-filled alcoholic life, sexual life. And the truth is, you know what? Yes, that's a part of the LGBT community, but that is not all of the LGBT community. Just like in
Right.
the straight community, you have people that live immoral, do drugs, have sex, etc. But that's not all of the straight community. There are plenty of gay people that live very normal lives, trying to find their place to belong and be a part. And I think the reason why it's hard for the church to engage with the community is because they see one thing and they think that we as LGBTQ plus people have this agenda and we're trying to shut down this system called the church, because the church has these morals and has this belief and has these patterns and have these practices, and I'm trying to shut down their system. And the truth is, I'm not trying to shut down, and the community is not trying to shut down the church organization as a whole. What we're trying to shut down is we're trying to shut down hate. We're trying to shut down disapproval. We're trying to shut down the lack of acceptance that they give towards us as a people. Equality rights, rights to live, rights to have partnership with people, rights to love, rights to be engaged and practice, have children, like literally have the same lives and rights that you have. That's what we're trying to shut down. The church is very adamant that they have all the truth. And I question that truth because as a person who once believed, Glenn, in that truth, I don't believe that truth anymore. I believe that God accepts me for who I am. He approves of me for who I am. I am made in his image, and I am a beautiful, stunning, glorious, designed gay man made in the image of God. And I serve God with my whole heart. I'm passionate about Jesus. I love to worship. I love to serve the local church. But the truth is, I'm a son of God who so happens to be gay. And I can't shun that. And the church has that a problem with me actually confessing that out loud, because when they hear me say I'm gay, they automatically assume that I'm living in sin. And that's just not truth. There are many gay Christians who live according to the standard of morality and holiness and righteousness. And I think that we need to tune into that truth versus the perception that the church and Christians have towards the LGBTQ plus community. Therefore, we have challenges. The church has challenges reaching out to LGBTQ plus people, and LGBTQ plus people have challenges receiving from them because we don't know what their motive is.
So it's all about that M word, motive. Um, but let me digress. You for those who are listening, Daniel just said something that was very profound and impactful. Because he identifies as being gay, and the first thing that we would say is, when I say we, I'm gonna just say the Christian community. We would look at him and we would call names. In fact, Daniel shared not too long ago an experience that he had when he was out enjoying an evening. Some wonderful person, I won't call it idiot. Okay, the idiot mistreated him, in a way that he shouldn't have.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, that happens more times than not. But my point here is, because an individual identifies a certain way, and as he said, he loves Jesus. He's living morally, holistically, the way that he's supposed to, according to the scriptures. He's not he's not involved with the things that many Christians would assume that he is. And I think a lot of times that perception piece is a part that get a lot of us in trouble, because we automatically assume. But again, the guy that's been to Alcoholic Anonymous 25 times, we say, well, praise God, he's trying. He, Joe Bag of Donuts is doing this, or the guy that's been in pornography therapy for the last year. Oh, he's trying. He's not womanizing anymore, but he falls off the wagon. It's no big deal. But then, someone from it's like Daniel, his community did that stuff, and it's like, I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. And we have to get to a place where our motives are pure. We have to get to a place where we know better, because we've spent time with these individuals to know better. And a lot of times, a lot of straight people, well, let me rephrase this: women don't have a problem hanging out with gay women and guys. For some reason, guys have a problem hanging out with gay guys. It's a perception of, well, if you're hanging out with them, then you must be a down low brother, or you must be bi, or you must be queer, or you must be something associated with that. And I can tell you that's not the case.
Right.
I'm straight, and Daniel and I, we hang out. I got nothing but love for him. But again, that comes from building relationship. In
Right.
fact, day one when I met Daniel, it was just like it is right now. It wasn't
Yeah.
well, hey. No. That's not how it's done. It's
Right.
about seeing the person, building a relationship, and moving on from there. Let's keep it
Right.
moving, Daniel. I think you kind of hit my fifth question already. The question was, both sides have preconceived notions about each other. What advice would you give, would you share with our viewers about such preconceived ideas?
Yeah.
And you kind of hit it already.
Yeah. I would really just say, every story is different, and every gay person, LGBTQ plus, every person has a different story. And I will say, Glenn, you hit on this early on in our conversation. Establishing relationship with the people that you are encountering is so vital and important. Being able to listen, being able to engage, being able to relate. Every person can relate to a story.
Yes.
And every story matters. Every life matters. And whether you're gay, whether you're bi, whether you're trans, whether you're non-binary, um, whether you're in transition, like, just being able to sit and listen to that person's story matters so much, more so to the person that you're trying to reach. If you want to reach the LGBTQ plus community, then shut up and listen to their story, listen to their background, listen to their life. And I'm telling you, you will learn a lot, but you're also doing something for that person, because that person is now opening up and trusting you with their story. And if you
Yeah.
engage, and I'm not here to tell people how wrong they are. I'm here to tell people how much Jesus loves them. My job isn't to point out their sin. My job is to point them to a relationship with Papa. And when they establish relationship with Papa, all the stuff and sin and garbage that they live, that stuff starts fading away when they engage with Jesus. But my job isn't to
Yes.
point out all their flaw. My job is to establish relationship like Jesus would, engage with them, grab a beer, sit out in the patio, enjoy conversation with them, engage in their world, and let them know that I'm not here to try to change them. I'm here to engage in friendship with them. I'm telling you, that is the way I think the church needs to structure establishing a relationship with the community if they want to make a difference in that community.
Man, you mentioned a few good things there, and I'm gonna hit on a couple of them that you just mentioned. You said engage in their world. A a bishop that I was under years ago, he always told a story. He told it several times, and the story was he loves fishing, and there
Mhm.
was this individual that loved fishing also, but the guy wasn't a Christian. So the bishop said, "Hey, would you like to go fishing?" And the guy said, "Yeah, I love to go fishing, but when we go fishing, I don't want to hear no Jesus stuff." He said, "That's fine." He said, "I just want to go fish."
Yeah,
And that relationship started, it formulated, and at that time when he was telling the story, the guy was pastoring a church in Alabama
yeah,
because he didn't thrust the gospel on him.
yeah,
He allowed it to come to him. My fraternity brothers, they always say this. They say, "I'd rather see a sermon than hear a sermon."
yeah, 100%. I will tell you this, Glenn. What helped me build relationship with the gay community? I was so afraid of the gay community because I knew that the gay community, much like any community with drugs and alcohol and the club scene, can be extremely dark. And I was
Mhm.
afraid of presenting myself in a community to where I would open myself up to demons as I was taught in the Christian
Mm.
temple. But I will tell you what gained trust, what gained their trust, how I received their trust is I started building relationship with a coworker of mine who was a drag queen. And
Mm.
she invited me. She was a former Pentecostal. She used to be in church, loved church. She could sing all the old Pentecostal songs, but she didn't do God anymore. She didn't love God. She didn't want to have anything to do with God. But she was intrigued by this person who claimed to be gay and had relationship with God. So she said, "Hey, I'm doing a show." And I said, "You know what? I'm going to be there." And I went to her show and I ended up going to the club every single Saturday night. I would have 3 drinks, top max, because I don't want to drink anything more. I know if I drink anything past 3, I'm going to start feeling tipsy. So I didn't want to get drunk. I wasn't there to dance. I wasn't there to meet anybody. I was there to build relationship with the people that came into this bar. And I did that for 3 months. And people started saying, "Hey, Pastor D, Pastor D's here. Pastor D's here." I would sit at the bar talking with people. That queen ended up inviting me to use her club for my organization where we did church every single Sunday. And
Wow.
she would promote it. And I'm going to tell you something. To me, to me, that's reaching the people. To me, that's what love is. It's going outside the norm. The community, they're not going to come to the church. They're not running to the church. You've
Mhm.
got to take Jesus to this community. And I'm so glad, I'm so passionate about this because I know that this community is looking for love and hope. They're looking for answers. And what not a better opportunity for the church to awaken themselves and be light in a real dark place and be hope. I'm telling you, I saw people get saved. I baptized people in the community. Like I saw Jesus manifested in a community where I was always told never to engage in. And I just learned that this is my passion. This is my heart. This is what I'm about. This is why I do what I do. This is why I fight for the LGBTQ plus community. Because I've heard their stories. And Glenn, honest to God, I would say 65 to 70% of them, they've come from the church. Like
Mm.
they've they've had relationship with Jesus and they don't ever want to do it again. So I want
Wow.
to see these people come back to God. I want to see them experience love and hope and see that Jesus really is for them. He's not against them.
You know, you gave a stat that I kind of knew already. You said 65 to 70% comes from the church. One of my spiritual moms back in the day made a comment. She said the church is the only army that eat their own. And, these are the type of things that she was referencing.
Yeah.
So what? Individual have issues, but we all have issues.
Yeah.
Even in my own family, and I talked to my son about this conversation. I said, hey, here's what the scripture says. Here's what people are going to say. Here's what the church is going to say. I said, but at the end of the day, you know that I love you, your mom loves you, your family loves you, nothing else matters. And when it's all said and done, you must stand before an audience of one. And aside from that, that was the end of the conversation. because here's the thing. Old church would say, you know what, you have this issue, and you have same-sex attraction, what the case may be. You are now you're castigated, you're out of the house, and don't come back until you're straight. But that's not how it's done. That's not how Jesus did it. He brought, like one woman caught in the middle of adultery. They brought the woman, but what about the guy? According to the Jewish law, they both should have been stoned, not just the one.
Right.
Yeah. So when it comes to what we're looking to do, the past few days, I've been writing, little words down about who I am. I wrote down bridge builder, connector, global, information oriented, so on and so forth. Because what I believe is that God has put me in a strategic place where I'm able to enable or facilitate conversation between different groups of people.
Yeah.
Because it's a necessity. Because here's the thing, I'm not concerned about whether you're going to pay me or not. I'm not concerned about whether you're going to not give me an honorarium if I come somewhere. And I'm not going to close my mouth because for $1. Why? God has given me a voice to be able to use it. So guess what I'm doing, Daniel? I'm using my voice. Yeah. And there are people who say, well, you're lucky to be able to do this. I'm like, no, I'm not lucky. I have been strategically placed to be where I am. And it would be a shame for me not to open my mouth in matters that really count. Now, you mentioned in the last few minutes, you mentioned story matters. You shared so many things tonight. Some stories I knew and some I did not. And I hope that our viewers tonight are paying attention to the stories that you are sharing. Because the stories that you're sharing, some are yours and some are others, are stories nonetheless that individuals need to realize that these things impact the lives of individuals worldwide. And you start talking about being relatable, and one thing you said was having a voice. Sometimes I think being part of both communities, we have a voice, but we're voiceless when it comes to things that really matter. If that makes sense. Scripture says that we swallow a camel, but we strain at a gnat.
Right.
So we have to get to a place where we understand that it's imperative that I'm going to say this next thing is a Shakespearean line. Katie, this is just for you. To thy own self, be true.
Yeah.
And one of the toughest things, bro, I had to learn was not be a title, not be an apostle and a prophet or a pastor, a teacher or evangelist, but just be Glenn. Yeah. It's just been recently that I learned how to start saying Dr. Glenn. because what happens is, and as you know, the church will take your giftings and they will use it until they can't use it anymore. And then once they're done away with you, on to the next person. Right. But I had to come to a place of saying, okay, I'm tired of the titles. I want to get back to just a place of Glenn and God. Yeah. And what you're saying is, and I believe you're saying is that you're wanting people within your community to get from a title, because to me, Black's a title, LGBTQ as a title, whatever, those are titles, but we're trying to get people back to a place where it's just them and God. With that being said, sir, what one thing do you want to leave with those that are watching tonight?
I would say this: honoring people, honoring individuality means more to anyone, I think, than anything. I learned this a few years ago, and it's really helped me in my journey. of discovering myself and being patient with a local church. I've learned to value who people are, not discredit what they're not. And so I'm going to value everything that you are as an individual, as a person. I'm going to honor your gifts. I'm going to honor your individuality. But I'm not going to discredit you if you don't meet my needs. I'm not going to discredit you if your identity doesn't look like my perception of identity in Christ. I'm going to value you for who you are, period. And I'm going to honor you in every way possible, publicly, privately. I'm just going to honor you. And when we honor people, that carries such a weight for them to trust you and engage with you, by just honoring people. And I just encourage our viewers, Glenn, again, thank you so much for this. I encourage all of our viewers, to learn to value and honor people, get to know their story, trust that even if you don't see God working in them, choose to see Jesus in the people that you encounter. And I'm telling you, if you choose to see through the lenses of Christ, you can't help but see Jesus in the people that you encounter. And that includes LGBTQ plus people.
Wow. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on tonight, sir. This has been a very impactful moment. Um, I'm grateful that you would even come on. You know, you being the celebrity that you are.
Oh, God.
But you know, the thing is, and you mentioned it a couple times, as we close, valuing people, honoring people, respecting people. And I will say this, for those who are listening and those who are struggling with going against the status quo, don't. You know, this is a time when you have to be free to be you.
Yeah,
So what someone says something that it may hurt your feelings for a second,
yeah,
but we'll get past that.
yeah,
And this is a season and a time when we as humanity have to learn to function together as one.
yeah,
We have so many things going on right now. The world is in disarray. We're in an election year and there's chaos there. The weather system, dual weather systems are heading towards the Gulf. There's chaos there. Friends in South Africa, there's chaos there. It's chaos around the globe. And
yeah,
some would say, well, Jesus is coming soon. We don't know what soon looks like. He said 2,000 years ago, I'd be back. Look quickly, and he ain't got back yet. You know Jesus black, right? You know, when it
yeah.
comes to I'll be there in a second. He ain't got back to the joint yet.
Right,
But
right.
but at the end of the day, Missions 365 is geared towards humanity because all of our assignments differ. We all walk in different lanes. How we interact with people are different. For example, I will say this, although I'm not a part of the LGBT community, and I know that Daniel is, but when we have these conversations, as I come across individuals that are part of the community and I interact with them, it's almost like second nature. And many are surprised that I even engage. In
Yeah,
fact, I had a conversation with a Muslim, and he told me that he said, you're probably the most open Christian that I've ever engaged with, because sometimes we have to listen and
right,
not think that we always have the right answers and or the right
right,
responses. And
right.
sometimes you may have the right response,
Yeah,
but you know what I learned, and I learned this from being married. Sometimes you can be right and still be wrong.
yeah,
And when it comes to missions, I'd rather be right but right than to be right but wrong. If that makes sense to you. I guess what
yeah,
I'm trying to say is I'd rather hear what you're being said in order to engage with you another time. Because what I don't want to do is I don't want to rupture the relationship based off of a first time meeting. We have to
right.
have something where we can continue to keep the relationship going. And sometimes to do that, you got to bite your tongue in order to get that. Because what I realized is, and you can verify this, sometimes we will say things intentionally just to see what you're going to say or see your response to certain things. Because
Hmm.
as you said earlier, we're trying to get to the motive aspect. That as a saying, we want to cut to the quick or cut to the chase
Right.
because we don't have time to waste. Well, hey, social media, thank you guys so much for chiming in tonight. Again, we apologize for having technical difficulties. I'm on one time zone. Daniel is on another time zone, and by the time we figure this thing out, we're here. My prayer tonight is that you would go back and share this, that you would listen to it again, because we share a lot of information, a lot of nuggets. And like I shared with Daniel, it's not about love only, but it's about getting information out to people so that they themselves can make the positive differences and changes in and through their lives. With that being said, thank you guys so much